Hello students, how are you? Now in previous session of mine I had made you an introduction on the golden rules of accounts. There are two. One is traditional classification, another is modern classification of accounts. As I told you in my previous session, we will be doing the journal entry on the basis of modern classification of accounts. Okay, so let us start with that concept. Now, you need to know what are the steps of doing journal entry. The three most important steps. Do not skip any of these steps initially unless and until you get the topic very clearly. Journal entry you all can do either from traditional more classification concepts, or you can do from modern classification concepts. It is up to you. But believe me students, doing journal entry through modern classification will help you later on in your further chapters. So I suggest that you all should do your journal entries based on your modern classification only. So it will help you to understand your further chapter in accounts. Now coming straight away to the point, how to do journal entry. The first important step as said by me is identify the accounts to be opened. That means you need to read the question and identify which are the accounts you will open. Okay, maybe cash account, maybe a purchase account. So there are different accounts that we need to open in a company's book. Okay, so which account we need to open, that we need to identify. So slowly we'll be doing more of the sums and exercise. You get to know how to identify these accounts. After knowing that which account you are going to open, you have to identify their nature as of what, that what we studied, the modern classification, right? Nature, whether it is an asset, whether it is liability, whether it is capital, whether it's revenue, or whether it is expense. So that's very important. You need to know what are the assets example, what are the liability example. I had shown you some examples in my previous session, so you can refer. Those students who have missed the previous session, there is a link in the description box. You can refer those link and follow what I had done in my previous session. After knowing the nature of accounts, you can apply the modern classification rule. This also had discussed what is a modern classification rule. So all these steps are very important in journal entry. Let me show you some examples, students. Now, first example is business started with cash rupees 50,000. Now, while reading this question, as I told you, the first step in journal entry is what, students? Yes, it is to identify the name of the accounts that we need to open. Here we will open which account? Cash account and capital account, right? So for the first step is what? Identifying the name of the accounts to be opened. So which are the two accounts? Remember, minimum two accounts you need to open. Okay, maximum can be more than two also, but minimum two account is needed in journal entry to complete. So the first step says, as we need to know which are the two accounts that we need to open. First is cash account, second is capital account. Second step, students, what is it? Yes, to know what is the nature of the account. Cash account is what by nature? It's an asset. And capital is what? It's capital only. Now those are the modern classification rule which I had already discussed in my previous session. One is asset, liability, expense, income and capital. Income can also be called as revenue. Now this is the rule that you need to remember, and while doing the journal entry, make sure in your working note you write this rule so that you get correct journal entry initially. Okay, so assets, you know, if it increases it goes in which side in my journal entry? Debit side. If asset decreases it goes on which side? Credit side. If liability increases, it goes on which side? Credit side. If it decreases, it goes on the debit side. Same way expense, if it increases, it goes on debit side. If any expense decreases, it goes on the credit side. If income increases, it goes on credit side, and if it decreases, it goes on the debit side. Capital, if it increases, it goes on credit side. If it decreases, it goes on debit side. So this is the modern classification rule that you need to know. Okay, you need to learn this so that your journal entry becomes easy. As now we have identified step 1, we have identified the name of the accounts to be opened. Step 2, we have identified their nature also. Now coming to the step 3, what is happening to the asset? Suppose any person is starting the business, okay, and we know he is bringing cash into the business. Cash is an asset, right? So obviously all the transaction students, you have to think from company's point of view only, okay. So now what is happening in the company when this cash is coming in the business? Obviously this asset is what? It is increasing. So if it increases, see the rule students, it is what? It is increase means it is debit, right? So you put an arrow up, it is increasing. Capital, what is happening to the capital? Yes, that is also increasing. So we know both assets and the capital are increasing because when owner brings his own personal money into the business, that is called as capital. So capital is also increasing here, and cash is an asset which is also increasing. So it's very much clear with all the 3 steps. Now step 4, we have to directly do our journal entry. So how will we know that which account will come on debit side and which will come on the credit side? By seeing this modern classification rule. Cash is what? Again I repeat, cash is what? Yes, it is an asset. An asset is increasing, so increase in any asset, it goes on which side in the journal entry? Debit side. Capital is again increasing, so any increase in capital, it goes in journal entry which side? Credit side. So this completes my journal entry. Cash account debit to capital account. Let me show you one more example, students. Yes. Now tell me, if purchase goods for cash, rupees 50,000. Okay. So here the company is buying some goods and giving some cash, right? So obviously they are doing an expenditure for their company. They are buying some goods and they are paying cash to the supplier who is supplying them the goods. And what is that goods worth of? Yes, it is worth of rupees 50,000. So for the first step, again, what we'll do, we'll identify the name of the accounts to be open. It's clearly said it is a cash purchase. So we'll open cash account and we'll open purchase account. Never open goods account. That is wrong. Okay. Now, step 2 says what? You have to identify the nature of the account. So cash is what? Again, it's an asset. Purchase is what? It is an expense of the business because when you buy, you are doing an expenditure. Step 3 says what? Apply the modern classification rule. So according to the rule here, we can see what is happening when you're buying goods. Your cash is going out, right? Asset. Cash is what? An asset. If asset decreases, it goes on which side? It goes on credit side. And purchase is what? Expense. Your expense are increasing of your company. So what it will go on which side? Yes, it will go on the debit side. So our journal entry will be what? Purchase account debit to cash account. Let me show you one more example. Sold goods for cash 50,000. Here what is happening? You are selling some goods and your company is getting some cash, right? So again, first step. Step 1 says what? Yes, identify the name of the accounts to be opened. So which 2 accounts we are going to open here? Yes, cash account and sales account. Step 2 says what? Identify their nature. Cash is what? An asset, and sales is what? It is revenue. So after identifying the nature, the step 3 says what? You need to know the rule. So modern classification rule says here you are selling goods. So cash is coming in the business, right? So asset increase, right? So cash asset is increasing here. So according to the rule, if we say if any asset increases, it goes in journal entry which side? Debit side. Sales is what? Obviously, when you are doing a sales, it's a revenue for your company. So if any revenue increases, it goes on which side? Credit side. So again, my journal entry is complete after this modern classification rule, which says cash account debit to sales account. I hope you have understood. Remember the 3 steps I repeat. 3 steps are what? Yes, identify the name of the accounts to be opened, identify their nature, and then apply the modern classification rule. I hope students you liked my this session of journal entry. Next session I will be doing a complete sum on the journal entry. Thank you.